So when it comes to our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, our First Amendment to our Constitution, the First Amendment to our Constitution has 5 liberties in a specific order. The first liberty is religion. Congress shall make no rule abridging the right of the people to practice their religion. We have freedom of speech. We have the freedom of the press. We have the right to assemble. We have the right to petition our government for a redress of grievances, and those are 5. And they're in a specific order. Religion, that's there for a specific reason, so we have a common sense of what's right and wrong, a moral understanding, a moral compass. We have the right to talk about events of the day with our fellow people. We have the right to talk about it. That's freedom of speech. We have the right to write about it, to publish it, to share it with our fellow people. We have the right to assemble, not riot, protest, and wreak havoc. We have the right to assemble by province, by county, as we the people. In that assembly, we have the 5th liberty, the right to create a petition, a paternal order, as our founders viewed it. A petition was a paternal order with a list of grievances. And we have a locally elected law enforcement officer called a sheriff serve that petition with a list of grievances to be redressed by our public servants. That's what the petition means, the right to petition our government with a list of grievances for a redress. Redress does not mean address. We don't care what their opinion is. A redress means it must be set right, now, immediately. The Second Amendment is there, and there are 2 liberties in the Second Amendment, and that is the right of the people to form a militia and keep and bear arms in the formation of that militia. If the sheriff is outmanned when he goes to serve that petition on the governor because an assembly of we the people decided that he was acting outside his parameters, then the sheriff comes back to the assembly, and the sheriff asks the assembly to call up the militia, a nation of Minutemen, to call up the militia and help him serve and enforce that petition on the branch of government that's misbehaving. And that's why we have the First and Second Amendment. You see, but we're not a party to it. We're not a party to the Constitution because we're 14th Amendment citizens called United States citizens. I'm a people. We're going to get into that next. The Constitution for the United States of America, not of. So that's been undermined, and there's been an overlay, and there's 2 of everything. It's been covered up. Our original Constitution has been covered up with legal fiction. Now we have to understand what lawful and what legal is. Lawful is God's law. It's the dominion that man was given over the earth in Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 through 28. Now the King James Version from 1611 was the prevailing Bible at the time. There was also a few Geneva Bibles around at the time. And it's amazing when you go back and you actually get a 1611 version of the Bible and you start reading chapter and verse, and then you look at one that's printed up today or even from as far back as the 70s. The oldest Bible I had before we got the 1611 version was one printed in 1976. It was a Celebration Bible of 1776, and that Bible changed dramatically in 1976. I was 10 years old when my mother bought that for us. It's a family Bible. It's about 3.5 inches thick. Just in that short period of time, it changed. The Bible, the way that the words meant, there was things changed in the way it was presented to the people as they read it. So it's very important to go back to the original intent of the words as they were written on the page. And where we got our dominion from was the Bible, 1611, King James Version. That's very important. So when we move forward in correcting your civil status, there's 2 paths that you're doing this. And there's 2 things that we're dealing with. There's 2 of everything. And this is where you're correcting your status. Now, some of the folks out there that, as you do your research, you're going to find other organizations that are helping people correct their status. You're going to find other individuals out there that are saying that they have the answer. And as you gain more knowledge, and you gain more comprehension and you become confident in what you're learning, you'll be able to discern for yourself what is the right path and what is not the right path, because you can't do this halfway. And what you're getting ready to do as you're considering changing your civil status is you are actually considering something that's pretty big. You're claiming, you're declaring, and you're claiming your birthright that the founding generation gave to you at such a high price. And the cabal, as you're going to come to understand, they don't like that too much. Now, our numbers are growing. When I say our numbers, I mean the movement towards restoring God's law, restoring our Constitution. There's more and more people that are waking up and saying, hey, this isn't right. This mask mandate is not right. You have the CDC talking out of both sides of their mouth. Every time they get up, the story changes. You have nations around the world that are in conflict with what our narrative is here in the country. You know, it's amazing that we have everybody now dying from COVID, but where did the flu go? Just look at their documents that they're putting out. Now, as far as the vaccine mandate that we're hearing about, ask yourself this question, and ask the idiot that's trying to convince you to put on a mask and trying to convince you to take a shot. Wouldn't it be nice if the government followed its own regulations and its own rules, its own codes? You can't sell a $2 candy bar unless on the back of that candy bar it has a list of ingredients and it has nutritional information on it. If you sell a candy bar without that in a retail environment, you're in violation of their code, subject to arrest. And it must have a list of ingredients on it with nutritional facts. This vaccine that they're pushing, it's not a vaccine, doesn't even have a list of ingredients in the box. They can't tell us what's in it. The doctor that wants to shoot it in your arm can't tell you what's in it. They're not following their own codes. So this is how you hold people accountable. This is how you hold your government service employees accountable. Governmental service employees accountable. So here, let's talk about the overlay. There's two of everything. Two of everything. I hope you can see this. If you can't, you have to zoom in on it. Up here it says two of everything. There's two of everything. On this side we have de jure. De jure is of divine. It's of God. It is we the people with the authority under the Bible. It's truth. Over here is de facto. De facto is devoid of the fact of God's law. It is stuff made up. SMU. It is SMU. It's stuff made up. De facto. And it started with Abraham Lincoln. If you look at and research the Civil War, you'll see it wasn't really fought over slavery. It was fought over the difference between the United States for America and a corporation of the United States. And you can do some research in that. So, over here we have de jure, which is of God's creation that was created by we the people with the authority of God. We the people created something called the United States for America. Upper and lower case, proper diction. It's the proper style. Over here we have something on the de facto side, which is devoid of the fact of God's law. It's United States. It's all capital name. And the states fall under that as subsidiaries. State of Pennsylvania, state of Maryland, state of Texas, state of, county of. That's de facto. It's a corporation. It's legal fiction. You can find the Dun & Bradstreet number for it. So the United States. Over here on de jure we have law enforcement that was authorized by we the people when they were elected. We can hold them accountable. We the people can hold them accountable. Over here we have policy enforcement agents or police. Look at the word police real carefully. P-O-L-I, policy. C is a corporate. E is enforcement. Police is policy, corporate enforcement. Okay, a corporation enforcement officer. And the Supreme Court recognizes this. You can find cases that I've posted on the channel and on the websites that I've posted where the Supreme Courts and the courts of this land admit that police officers are policy enforcement agents. They're not there to protect and serve. They're there to enforce code, statutes, and ordinances that are de facto. You see, under God's law, law enforcement can only take you into custody if you've created harm to someone. If you've taken their stuff or you've harmed them. There has to be a victim, a corpus delicti. Over here, a policy enforcement agent, they can pull you over when there is no victim. Well, I thought you crossed the yellow line, and that's breaking the law. That's a criminal offense under their code, statutes, and ordinances. That's a policy enforcement agent. Okay? Over here under de jure, we have a lawyer, a law sayer. Over here we have an attorney, an actor to attorney, to present you in your vessel persona, called a person, before a bar court, a British Accreditation Registry bar court. If you want to find out if you're in a bar court or if you're in a de jure constitutional court, just ask the judge this. Can I have a lawyer that's a non-bar attorney represent me? And the judge will tell you, no, you have to have a bar attorney. You can't have a lawyer, a law sayer. A lawyer is for civil matters. An attorney is for criminal matters under the code, statutes, and ordinances. Depending on how honest the judge is, they'll tell you about that. And you're going to learn about things called syllogism and the 12 presumptions of the court. You'll learn about things called your cesta QV trust account, which is what this legal fiction over here tries to suck money out of. They created it under the Public Charitable Trust Act. And that's why it's important that you understand and comprehend all this stuff. Okay, so over here under de jure we have people. People are de jure. Citizen with a capital C is de jure. Over here we have persons in your all capital name created by your birth certificate. Your mother signed it as an informant. Person is a persona. I'm going to talk a little bit about person and where that came from because that word gets under my skin like you wouldn't believe. And over here we have citizen, your all capital name, your 14th Amendment citizen. You have privileges and responsibilities. You don't have rights and freedom. You have privileges and responsibilities over here under the de facto, the stuff made up. And there's a big difference between a capital C, citizen, to provide essential governmental services to free people, versus a citizen over here, which is a municipal servant. Citizenship, municipal servant under admiralty law. You have to break the word down and hyphenate it. So, when you're on this path of correcting your status, there are two realities. There are two realms. There's the shit that's made up, and then there's God's law. There's de jure, the real stuff that we the people created. And you have to correct your civil status on both tracks. Now, where we part from other organizations that try to do this and that are doing it, is we put people on both tracks. We want you to correct your status on both tracks. And this status is in what we call two lanes of the highway. Or I call it 2 lanes of the highway. You have the de facto track. The de facto, remember, de facto is devoid of the fact of God's law. It's devoid of fact under God's law. That's how you can remember it. De facto, it's devoid of the fact of God's law. It's the undoing of God's law. It's the stuff made up by man. It's contracts under the law of the water. You ever heard the term, don't get in any hot water? Well, where did that come from? Don't get in any hot water. Don't get pulled into the law of the water, commerce law, because you're going to lose. De jure. Under de facto, correct your civil status. Your civil status under the de facto corporation is called an American State National. Now, we added the word American, but under their code, Title 8, Section 1101, definitions 21 and 23, a state national. one that owes their allegiance to the state that they inhabit. And we are of one of the American states, American state national. That's what that means. They recognize it as a state national. They being the cabal, the corporation, the shit made up, recognizes it as a state national, an American state national. That's under the legal fiction, the corporation, the de facto. Now under de jure, under what we the people created. You see, we the people created government, and we the people laid down the law. And we the people told government that they could do 19 specific things, and no more. And when government steps outside of that authority, it's up to we the people to correct their errors. And we haven't been doing it for a long time. So we the people created government, not we the citizen. We the people created government, and we elected people to serve as citizens to provide essential governmental services for us. Capital C. So we, under the de jure, we need to correct our constitutional status from a corporate citizen to a people and become a party to it. We the people created government. Don't you want to be a party to the corporation? If you keep checking boxes as a U.S. citizen, you see the government paperwork doesn't have a box on there where you can check a citizen of one of the several states. Because it's been taken over. The states have been taken over. The state sovereignty, you know, people are sovereign, and we allow states to be sovereign in what we tell them to do. So one of the several states, they don't have 50 check boxes on there that I'm a Pennsylvania citizen, I'm a Pennsylvanian, and I inhabit the state of Pennsylvania. That's why I'm a Pennsylvanian. I'm not a U.S. citizen. A United States citizen. The United States supposed to reside in 10 square miles. And that's the box we put them in. Ports and forts. That's it. The legal fiction that's taken over our nation called the postal zip code. Every time you use a postal zip code, you agree to their contract called the District of Columbia. Their district courts. So, we need to correct their status, the constitutional status, and that is de jure versus de facto. De jure's on this side, and de facto's on this side. And here's the difference. You're going to correct your status under both de facto, the shit made up, and the de jure, the stuff made up by we the people at the direction of God under God's law. We took dominion over the land, the air, and the water. We created a government to serve the people, not get flipped upside down like it is now. So under de jure, we have people versus citizens. Citizens under the 14th Amendment, citizen, municipal servant. 14th Amendment has specific, it tells you right in the privileges and responsibilities. Well, if a government gives you a privilege, can they not take it away? If you have a child and you take away a child's privilege, it's because they misbehaved or they had misdemeanor. You take away their privilege, you see? But privileges are what a corporation, de facto corporation, gives its citizens. Under the 14th Amendment, you were born a citizen. You have to declare otherwise. Over here, under de jure, we have an inhabitant. I inhabit. I domicile. I have a domicile that I inhabit. Over here, a person is a resident. Resident, where do you reside? Resident means that it's a temporary place where you conduct commerce. A person has a resident. A person is a personification, and I'm going to talk about person because that really gets under my skin, that word, and how we use it in our language, and we don't know where it came from. Okay, a citizen over here under de jure, a citizen is by choice. You become a citizen when you serve in public office. You become a citizen when you become a police officer. You become a citizen when you become an elected judge. You become a citizen, I said police officer, I used the wrong diction. You become a citizen when you become a law enforcement officer. You become a citizen from a people to a citizen when you cross the threshold of the office where you conduct business for we the people. You're a municipal servant. When you go back across that threshold, you become a people again. It's your choice when you serve the public, the municipality, and when you do not serve in that capacity. And it's usually when you cross that threshold or you engage in benefit for another in what would be your job outline. So, under the Motor Vehicle Code, you have a driver. A driver is a person, resident, driving a motor vehicle. A driver is engaged in commerce. Over here under de jure, we have a traveler. They travel in their private property, and it's supposed to be unmolested travel. If you read our founding documents, we have the right to travel in our private property. But you see, our motor vehicle is not our private property because we only have a certificate of title. We don't have the allodial title, the manufacturer's certificate of origin in red ink that we surrender nature, autograph, a living soul, a man, a woman, autographs a document. A dead vessel, a person, signatures. They give up God's law, nature's law. Signature, surrender nature. Okay, so it's very important that you comprehend this. All right? Now, with all the new people that are on the channel, it's very, 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 very important that you study what's on the channel. The channel is my walk to freedom. It's my walk to freedom. It's what I discovered and how I discovered as David Straight recruited me to do what I'm doing right now, which is find more people and recruit more teachers and recruit more people to help correct the errors of our public servants and restore our constitutional republic. And that's the mission that I'm on for the rest of my life. My wife and I both are doing this. There's some fantastic people on the channel that will help you. You have to take the steps to build your foundation. We have to build our foundation upon rock, not upon sand. And your confidence moves forward. Now, I want to say something about David and myself. David and I, it's not about David and I. It's not about who we are as men. It's not about us. It's not about Bobby Lawrence. I know the channel is named Bobby Lawrence, and that's because I had somewhat of a social media following, and a lot of folks know me by Bobby Lawrence. So I use that because that was my brand. That's been my brand since 2017. But it's not who I am. It doesn't matter who I am. I'm just a man. I have flaws. You know, I used to be a crackhead. I was a crack addict. I was addicted to crack cocaine. And that's been over 20 years ago now. No, I shouldn't say that. 18 years ago. 19 years ago. I've been clean for about 19 years. And so I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. Okay? Neither is David. So folks that are saying, I've seen a couple things pop up on the channel. Well, we can't find anything on David. And then there's this Vice News thing that's out there. We can't find anything on David. And then, okay, well, if you stop and think about the things that David has shared with you, those of you that know David, the kind of stuff that he's involved in, don't you think maybe you'd want your stuff to be private too and not easily found, like your home address? If you're engaged in sharing the knowledge that this is something that I've researched, and most of the people that started this movement back before David got involved in the 90s, they're dead. And many of them were not from natural causes. David's been shot. He's been poisoned. He's had his home stalked. He's been shot at his home while he's feeding his horses. The things that David does that he can or don't tell you about, that he's told me about in private, you don't want your public information out there. And if you're destroying judges in court, and the judge dismisses that case. I had one case dismissed. I wrote a document up for a young lady, and she submitted it to the court, and the court dismissed it that day as soon as he read it. And then we had another court pick it up, and they're trying now to railroad the girl, ignoring her documents. The other court, the first court that had it, I think the judge, he pissed his pants because he closed the case that day that he got served the document. But where can you find that information? You can't, because the case has been closed and it's been erased. But we have the documents. We have the letter that we gave that judge. We have the fraudulent search warrant that wasn't conducted under Rule 4.1. We have the document that shows that the judge committed fraud. We have the documents that shows that the FBI agents that took the property didn't list it on the inventory form and didn't sign it. That creates a theft. And we've got a judge now that has been given that information that refuses to put forth a criminal referral on the search warrant. You see, when judges refuse to follow their own rules, we have no law. And that's the state that we're in right now. That's the position we find ourselves in right now, is we've got these judges that refuse to follow what they know to be the law. They refuse to even follow their own codes of conduct. And I'm personally experiencing this as I help people around the country. And it's very frustrating. That's why we need more people. So it's very important that you study the channel and you only act as a free man, a free woman when you truly become free. Correcting your civil status and getting your passport merely gives you dominion over your own sphere of influence, your home. The place that you inhabit, you have dominion over that now. In order to take dominion over the three juris of law as you move throughout the economy, as you move around the state and around the country, you have to take dominion over those three juris of law as well. You have to get your superior titles. You have to create a trust, a family trust, a God trust for yourself and your family and your heirs. You get your superior titles on the land. You trademark your name. You engage in commerce with an intent to make a profit. You take dominion over the three juris. And there's more to learn about all this stuff. Once you take dominion over all three juris and you express your minor estate, only then are you free from all of it. You see, as a state national, when you've got your passport and you're traveling around, you can be traveling in your body, in your flesh, you're traveling. But if you're traveling in a motor vehicle as a driver, because the tag is still their tag, and they still have the superior title, and all you have is a certificate of title, with at the top it's listed the state of, in all capital names. At the top of that title it says the state of. They own the vehicle. Remember, possession is only 9/10 of the law. They own 10% of that. They have the right to force you into their contracts because you don't own that motor vehicle. You turned it into a motor vehicle when you bought it at the dealership, at the automobile dealership, and you signatured the superior title and sent it into the state, and they issued you a certificate of title. So you can't act as de jure people and have dominion over everything as king. It literally says a sovereign as king once you've expressed your minor estate. I've read some documents and that's exactly what it says. A sovereign, people are sovereign as king, the same sovereign rights as a king. You can't act as a sovereign, as a people, not a sovereign citizen, a sovereign people, as king, under their own code, statutes, and ordinances until you express that minor estate and you have all your superior titles and you have taken dominion over all three juris. This is why it's very, 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 very important that you do the homework, you gain the knowledge, you build the foundation, you learn what it takes to be a free man, a free woman, and you restore God's law back to your community, back to your life, back to the place that you inhabit, called your domicile, your estate on the land, the place where you live. That's where we start, is living souls correcting their status. throwing off this de facto stuff, taking charge of the de facto stuff, reclaiming your birthright under the de jure constitutional republic, under our Bible, our treaties, our supreme laws of the land, and that's why you're here on the channel. Now, everything you need to know, just about, is on the channel for your foundation. Only when you have the foundation will we help you create the documents to get you free from the corporation and restore your birthright as a people, a free man, a free woman, a living soul. You see, don't use the word sovereign citizens, because you can't be a sovereign people and a citizen at the same time. The only choice you get to make is when you are a people with the corrected status and you choose to become a servant by running for public office or taking a job from the government. Right now it's a corporation. If you take a job for the corporation, you become a citizen, and you do it by choice. When you're engaged in the duties of that office, you are a citizen. When you cross the threshold and you go home, you become a people again. Okay? So now, let me talk a little bit about the word person. If you've used the word person in one of your questions to an administrator, to a channel admin, or one of the folks that are going to help you, and you use the word person, we know you haven't studied the channel. Where does the word person come from? It actually predates the Bible. The word person is a mismatch of two words. Purser, on. A person. A person. A person, if you look it up, it's a corporation. It says so in the U.S. Code. Also look at the Unified Commercial Code, the UCC, and look up the word person. Look up the word person in a Black's Law Dictionary of today, and it'll tell you, or jurisprudence definitions. Tell you what a person is. It's a persona. It's a legal fiction. It's a corporation. Now, where does that word person come from? You never go anywhere in person. They're not a good person. They're a good man or a good woman or a good child. They are not a person, a persona. The word person predates the Bible. Person. If you look back, the word person. Under the vessel, admiralty law. Everything is admiralty law. Remember when we talked about the all-capital name, the birth certificate, and being drug into the hot water? That's admiralty law. There are three jurists of law, and you're going to learn about them on the channel. I'm not going to go into it right now. I want to focus just on the word person. Stop using it. The word person is admiralty law. It's contract law. It's marine contracts. So if you go back to before the Bible even, on a ship, you have different roles and different titles. You have a captain, you have a first mate, you have a bosun, you have a purser. Where did the name purser come from? Purser is the one that carries the ship's purse. What's in the purse? The money is in the purse. When the ship goes to the dock, the purser goes on the land and is responsible for paying the bills, paying the taxes. The purser goes on the land. The purser carries the money and is responsible for paying the debt. The purser goes on the land. Purser on the land pays the bills. It becomes person. Purser on land became person. A personification. Look up the word personification or persona. The Bible tells us not to take on the persona. Don't take on persona, titles. Our original 13th Amendment that was destroyed, they burnt down a bunch of, they being the cabal, the Bar Association, and they're the king's people, the king's men, the cabal. They burned down a lot of museums. And we only have one original Constitution with the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, that exists today. Well, the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, was titles of nobility and honor were prohibited from serving public office, public elected office. And believe it, that Abraham Lincoln was our first bar attorney. And he was our first president to write an executive order because he started a corporation. And that's what the Civil War was about. It wasn't about slavery. It was about Abraham Lincoln starting this thing called a corporation, and he became the president of this corporation, and he started writing executive orders. Do that research. It's unique. So a persona, is what you definitely don't want to be. You don't take on titles of nobility. An esquire, because it's an esquire, it takes an oath to a bar association. The Bar Association is the British Accreditation Registry. It's a foreign-owned guild, like the Screen Actors Guild. It's foreign. We also have the Bar Treaty from the 1940s. Look that up, where we give up our court systems to a foreign entity. It's not constitutional courts anymore. Just ask a judge if you can have a lawyer, a non-bar member, represent you. And the judge will probably tell you no. Especially a district court judge will tell you no. All right, so I want to leave you with this. Study the channel. The knowledge is on there. My walk to freedom is on there. It's my walk and my path to freedom and how I discovered where I'm at. Now, I have taken dominion over government and my domicile because I've corrected my status and I have my passport. I am a people by my patent of nativity. Under the de jure, I am a people by my patent of nativity and my declaration declaring that of truth and repudiation. Under their de facto corporation, I've claimed the status of a state national, and I have one of their government documents to prove it. It's called a state national. And LexisNexis, when you look me up on LexisNexis, it should say on there, a state national. Do not detain, do not interrogate. Notice the agent, do not detain, do not interrogate. Lifetime 50 state concealed carry. And the reason that that's on there is to tell the agent, the policy enforcement agent or the judge or whoever, that hey, this guy's a little different than who you normally deal with. That's why it's on there. They have limited diplomatic immunity from code statutes, ordinances, and acts of Congress, corporation Congress. That's why it's on there. Okay, so I also don't pay income taxes because I filed a Form 56. Now, if it was illegal to not pay taxes, why would they create two forms so that you wouldn't have to pay taxes? I use their government form to tell them I'm not paying them taxes anymore. Form 56, and if you work for somebody else, I happen to be lucky enough to work for myself, but if you work for an employer, after you file your Form 56, you give them a W-8BEN. So if it was illegal to not pay taxes, why would the Internal Revenue Service / IRS, there's two of them, why would they make a document for you to fill out to stop paying taxes? You see, you have to have a correct status first. There's a process, there's an order in which you go through this, and you must follow it exactly. Because if you don't, you will hit a landmine, and you'll get dragged into the hot water. Because you didn't listen, and you didn't do your due diligence, and you didn't do your research. And you filed an affidavit that you didn't know what was in it. You didn't believe it, you didn't know it. You just put your name on it because somebody figured it was a good idea. You have to know why you're filling out those documents and upon which you stand. Okay? Very important. So, as you move through this process and you consider doing this, you are going to find detractors. You're going to find people that are attacking David. You're going to find people, probably, I haven't heard of any, nobody's told me yet, where I'm being attacked. Oh, he's leading you down a path, he's a fraud, you know, blah, 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 blah. That's all distractions. It doesn't matter who we are as men. What matters is that we share the truth with you, and you do the research, and you find the truth yourself. When you know the truth and you find it, and you live it, and you experience it, no one can knock you off that foundation. But if you're going to listen to a distraction, and you're going to allow yourself to be distracted from your mission of restoring God's law back to your family and the place where you live, if you're going to allow that distraction to knock you off that, then you haven't built your foundation. You don't know what you're standing upon. You don't know why you're doing this. And it's very important that you comprehend why we have to do this, why we have to correct our status. Now, President Trump has mentioned this. If you go and pull up his speech that he gave at CPAC just this year, 2021, at CPAC in Texas, and you watch that speech, President Donald John Trump mentioned that the Bar Association was corrupt. President Donald Trump also mentioned that when we go back to the White House this time, it'll be in small letters, little letters. And he leaned into the microphone when he said it. And what he meant by small letters, little letters, was that the United States, on the other side, when I had the United States in all capital letters versus the United States in upper and lowercase, what Donald Trump meant was this, that the United States all capital letters is bankrupted. The bankruptcy ended on April 30th, so I'm told. And I trust the source that told me that, because everything else they've told me, thousands and thousands of pages of documentation, I've looked it up, is true. So why would I doubt one more thing that he tells me? The United States is bankrupted on April 30th. It's out of business, according to Dun & Bradstreet, but you have to get it. Now people are going to say, well, I went to Dun & Bradstreet and I couldn't find it. Well, you can find the Dun & Bradstreet number for the United States on Dun & Bradstreet. You don't have to have a subscription. But if you want the credit report on the United States and the fact that it's out of business and that it's the fact it's devoid of any right to be in business, it's bankrupted. If you want to find that information, you have to pay for the $5,000 subscription to Dun & Bradstreet, and then you can get credit reports on the United States and on the state of state. You can get financial reports on how they're doing as a corporation, a for-profit corporation, foreign owned. You can find out who the top 20 people are that own the corporation of the United States. It's a privately owned corporation. Who owns it? If you want to find out, pay the $5,000 and download the report. It's $5,000 a year for the information. Dun & Bradstreet has it. So you're correcting your status. We need to throw this off. Donald Trump's already talked about it. Little letters, small letters, he said. United States for America is upper and lower case, small letters. So we have to be ready for what's coming, because only we the people can restore our constitutional republic. Any president that we elect as people, any president that we elect is our public employee, and they can only do so much. Only we the people can restore our constitutional republic, not we the citizen. We the people can use our 5 liberties in the First Amendment effectively, and we the people can restore our government, not we the citizen. And we need more people and less citizens. I thank you for joining the channel. I thank you for watching the video. God bless you, and God bless your family. And let's move forward with this. Let's get this moving.